I don't want this to sound snarky, even though that's kind of who I am. Get ready with me as I tell you how to get the hair that you want from your hairdresser, cosmetologist, or stylist. So first off, I want to tell you, I have been doing hair for about 7-8 years now, and I've also been teaching cosmetology for about 5 or 6 years now. So I've done a lot of consultations in my time, and I've helped a lot of clients get the hair that they want. Now, that being said, I feel like sometimes we're not able to give the client what they want for a few different reasons. So I'm going to tell you exactly how you can get what you want from your hairdresser. First things first, make sure that you are bringing in pictures. And I say pictures with a P and an S. I mean, I know that pictures is always spelled with P, but pictures plural. Sometimes it's really hard to give the client what they want if they can't tell you exactly what they want. So pictures plural gives you the opportunity to be able to review what they're looking for, as well as it gives you the opportunity to ask what people like about pictures. And I'm not going to lie, it's not helpful when people say, oh, I like everything about this picture. You need to be specific. Like, I really like how the bangs are really wispy, or I really like how they've got a lot of volume in their hair. Those kind of specifics help guide the stylist in one direction or the other. Versus if you're not as specific about those things, it's way harder to be able to tailor a haircut or a color to that client. So the specificity of the pictures is just as important as the pictures themselves. And pictures plural gives people the opportunity to be able to specify what they like about one picture versus the other. And then the stylist can kind of see where those things overlap and if it's going to be something that's going to be possible for them. The specificity of those items is actually very important because if you have a picture that you're being shown and you like all of it, it's way harder to drill down and find out what their favorite parts are, and not just that, where their cutoffs are, because I think that that's something that often gets forgotten in hair, just in general, is like people's cutoffs. There's always a distance that they're not willing to go. There's always something that the client isn't willing to do. And those pictures kind of help guide the stylist to know this looks good, but this is going to be taking it too far. And I think that's really important. That's actually typically what I use pictures for, because I can find out what's going to be too far for those people. If I don't ask those questions, I can't ever figure out their limit. Like, it's okay if I do layers as long as they're not like this short. It's okay if I do a fashion color as long as it's not the color pink. Those limits are very, very important to have, because then you can kind of figure out what direction you're going to lean as far as like coloring their hair or cutting their hair, all of that. So I think that is a very vital thing. The last thing that pictures do is they help people to be able to start to visualize what things are going to look like. Sometimes a stylist isn't great about asking questions, and I'm sorry, that's just facts. Like, some stylists are better than others, and we all know this. But if you get a stylist that isn't asking you questions about what you like about it or what your favorite part about the pictures are, then you should be explicitly telling them, I really, really like this. I don't like this about the picture. So for instance, if it's a picture of highlights, I really, really like how blonde the highlights are. I don't like how chunky they are, or whatever the case may be. Second thing that you should always be doing when you are getting your hair done, you need to make sure that you have a realistic idea of what your hair currently looks like. So the density and texture. Now, density and texture, it can be a whole huge thing, but essentially that their hair looks about the thickness of yours and it's the same texture, meaning that it's the same curliness, you have the same amount of hair as them and you have the same texture. So wavy, straight, fine, whatever the case may be. That's important to know ahead of time when you're picking out those photos. Now, this is more important with cuts than it is with colors. However, sometimes I think we get in this space where we think, okay, well, this looks beautiful on them. And it could look beautiful on you too, but if you're super attached to how the haircut is laying on them specifically, that's something that you should probably be getting out of your head, because a lot of the times people don't come in with pictures of their same texture, which is going to inform how the look is going to look. It's important that either you come in with the same texture or you understand that they've got a different hair texture or a different hair density than you do. And so it's not going to look the same. And you can ask your stylist questions about this. Like, if you're not sure about the picture or you know that they have a different density of hair than you do, or whatever the case may be, then you can ask them if they think it's going to work, or if their hair texture is too different than yours. Like, that's something that is really a good thing to ask your stylist. But knowing that the pictures you choose do matter, and they are going to inform how it can actually be done on you. And if it can be done exactly the same way, like I can still give you a bob. If you have my haircut texture, there are going to be things that are different with a bob on super curly hair than it would be on like straight hair. Same thing with a pixie cut. Like a super fine textured pixie cut is going to look different on someone with my hair versus someone with stick straight hair. So make sure that you're using that to pick, I want to say, realistic photos to help you get exactly what you're wanting. And remember, okay, this is just a quick recap. Density is how much hair you have. Texture is how thin or thick the individual strand is. So that's going to be like how soft or how straw-like your hair is. Those do very much inform your decision as a stylist. Sometimes it's hard to know looking at someone's hair, but use your best judgment on them. And your stylist should be able to help you the rest of the way with that, at least. All right. Number 3. I don't want this to sound snarky, even though that's kind of who I am. After you've gone through your consultation with your stylist, you need to trust that the decisions that they're making are for the better good. Now, if you're worried about something that they're doing, yes, like ask about it. I'm not saying like if you think that they're cutting off too much, don't say something, but I'm saying that they don't need you to tell you how to cut the haircut, and they don't need you to tell you like what colors to use. Hairdressers are trained in like color theory. They're trained how to cut hair. I can tell you personally, I have had plenty of clients that have tried to tell me, okay, well, just start in the back and like work forward. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's not the way that I'm going to cut that cut. Or there's a reason that I'm doing it this way. Like, I don't need you to teach me how to do that haircut. I need you to tell me what you're looking for, because the doing the haircut itself, that's something I already know how to do. That's something that I've spent a lot of time learning, perfecting, taking classes, doing all of that. I don't need your help coming up with the formulation for your color. Like you coming in and saying, my friend got a 4RB on her hair. That's really nice, but your friend might have had a different starting point, or whatever the case may be. Like, I need to know what you're going for, and I need to ask you questions based off that. I don't need you to give me a formulation, or I don't need you to do a step-by-step on how to cut the hair. That's something that I have. And as much as I see that, there are definitely people who still try to do that still try to walk you through the haircut or try to tell you how to do certain things. So in the nicest possible way, your stylist doesn't need help with that. Your stylist needs help with your limits and what you are and are not willing to do with your hair. That's what your stylist needs help with. Number 4, let your stylist improve. So if you went to them last time and they didn't quite make your bangs short enough, or the color wasn't as vibrant as you wanted it to be, this is your opportunity to let them know that. Now, if you give them the option to fix it and they don't, that is on them. And I understand going to a different stylist. But if you don't even give them the option to fix those kinds of things, they can't ever improve. I know I've mentioned that not every hairdresser is made equal. And so I get that not every hairdresser will ask this. But if your hairdresser isn't asking like, hey, what can I do to improve? Or what did you not like about your hair last time? Then, hey, last time this was really bothering me the whole time. Or whatever the case may be. Like, you are able to say that to your stylist. I can't tell you how many times I asked someone and they like refused to tell me, even though I could tell that there was something on their mind, like they wanted me to change something, but they were unwilling to say that. Yes, there are those that are going to get offended if you say something, but honestly, a good hairdresser isn't going to get offended if you say, hey, my bangs were a little bit too long last time. A good hairdresser is going to be able to take that and listen to you and fix it for next time. So tell them. And if the hairdresser doesn't ask, you can tell them, hey, it was a little bit long through here last time. I have to say, I've had some of my best lifelong clients when people were willing to say stuff like that to me versus like, keep it quiet. I'm like, it doesn't help me and it doesn't help you to stay quiet on that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, don't be rude about it, but it's not rude to tell them that something wasn't quite working for you. In fact, I would say that it's almost the opposite in the sense that you giving them the chance to fix it helps you and it helps them. Make sure that you're giving them the opportunity to help you fix the things that you didn't like. Like I said, there are stylists that are going to get offended and there are stylists that won't fix it. After you've given them the opportunity to fix it, that's fine. You don't have to go back to them. But I'm saying that you're honestly going to get the best results if you stay with the same stylist and let them improve, because you style your hair every day. The stylist comes in and, a few hours every few months, right? And comes in and takes over your hair. If they're doing something wrong, they don't necessarily know that until you tell them. So that is something really important to note. I think that too often we get in this mindset where we're like, well, but the stylist should know better. And yes, the stylist in a lot of ways should know better. The thing is not every stylist has worked with your hair texture. And honestly, maybe they tend to style their hair differently than you would. So I think it's really important to let them try at least a couple of times to get what you want. If they're not listening, if they're not taking what you have to say into consideration, that's another thing. But if they are listening and you're not giving them a chance to fix it, they're not going to get better and you're not going to get what you want. And like I said, I think that there's a higher probability of you getting what you want if you're staying with the same stylist, because a stylist that can adapt to your needs is going to be the better choice. Fifth and final thing. Now, this one is very hard for people because I don't know how many times I've told someone this and they're like, oh, my stylist does it so much better than me. But pay attention how your stylist styles your hair. Now, part of the reason I say that is because honestly, I can't tell you how many times someone's like, oh, it doesn't look the same when I do it. Well, if your stylist isn't telling you more about how to style your hair, which they should be, but if your stylist doesn't do that, you need to ask them. Like I said, not all stylists are made equal, and they're not always going to pay attention and tell you, oh, if you do this, this will make this better. Or if you do this, this will help with that. They're not always going to remember to tell you, but you can always ask. I think I mentioned earlier that you should be asking a lot of questions. And I think that that's important. It isn't rude for you to take a look at what the stylist did and be like, okay, how did you do that? In fact, they should be showing you that stuff. I think it's very important that you style your hair, correctly, or how the stylist styled their hair, especially if you liked it. If you didn't like it, of course, ignore that, do what you want, but ask questions about the products that they're using or the way that they're curling your hair, stuff like that, because that's going to inform your ability to style it in the way that it was cut. So especially if you've never had a specific haircut before, I know I can't tell you the amount of people that I've introduced to something called salt spray. Salt spray is basically this amazing invention for super fine textured hair that allows it to get a little bit more volume and gives it a little bit of grittiness so that it stands up on itself and styles a little bit easier. But if you don't give me the opportunity to teach you how to style it, you're not always going to get the look that you want. So let me show you how to do that. There you have it. 5. Okay, so those are the 5 tips on how to get the hair that you want. Number 1, lots of pictures. Number 2, making sure that the pictures match your hair and that they're not just random pictures. Number 3, trust your stylist. Number 4, let your stylist improve. And number 5, pay attention to how to style it. These 5 things are going to help you get exactly what you want from your hairdressing experience. Now, like I said, and I want to reiterate this because I think that this is important, not all hairstylists are created equal, and they're not always going to ask you good questions or not always going to help guide you in one direction or another. But in general, these 5 steps are going to help you get what you want out of a hairdressing experience. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've had someone tell me they wouldn't listen to what I'm saying, or I wanted this and they wouldn't give me that. There's so many examples of this happening. And sometimes it just comes down to a good stylist, but sometimes it has to do with how they were communicating with you. And if you can get that communication down, you're going to be able to get the hair you want. So hope this helps. I will talk to you later. Bye.